welcome to the Prophecy Club. I've got Michael Snyder on the phone again today, as he's going to be speaking at the Prophecy Club this coming Saturday night and Sunday morning. Saturday night at 7, Sunday morning at 9:30. Prophecy Club, 2540 K Avenue in Plano. And he's going to be talking on two topics. Saturday night, prepare for the economic collapse and World War III. Sunday morning, the regathering of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Very interesting information indeed. Now, who is he? Well, he worked as an attorney on the famous K Street in Washington, D.C. He's written, matter of fact, so many articles become so popular that many of these articles are even mentioned around the globe on various radio and TV programs, written 2 books, and I'm excited to have him. Man, I tell you what, your heart and my heart are certainly knit together. So, Michael Snyder, welcome to the Prophecy Club.
Stan, it's great to be back with you today.
All right. We're going to talk about the EMP blast that so many people have seen coming to America. Let's start with Henry Gruver. Now, I'll read part of this. December 14th, 1986. Now, in case you don't know Henry Gruver, he's a prayer warrior, okay? He gets a map. He systematically walks up and down every street in a city, praying aloud, praying in the Spirit, pulling down strongholds, loosing the angels to do warfare. When he's finished, he goes up to a high point over the city, raises his hands, and reclaims the city for God. Now, he hasn't done this just a couple of times. He has done this to over 500 cities. Now, over the last, probably 10, 15 years, he's mostly been called to the nation of Japan. God is doing some powerful work over there. But December 14th, 1986, he had just finished walking an area in Wales, which is up next to England. He said he was praying over, he went to this castle. He was there just kind of visiting. All of a sudden, he was jerked up in the air, looking down on the earth like a globe. And he says he began to see massive amounts of ships and airplanes coming out of this inlet out of Norway. They headed down between the United States and Europe, literally covering the whole Atlantic. He wanted to see what was happening in the United States and looked over on the globe. He says, I saw coming out of the United States these radio communication towers. Now, this is important. I saw the jagged lines to show like the communications are coming out. Now, later he said these were cell phone towers, but in 1986 they didn't have cell phones, so he didn't know what the towers were. But anyway, he saw these communications coming out. But he said all of a sudden, they began to sprinkle down on the earth like dust. He said, I thought, oh no, they're not getting through. They're not getting through. They don't know what is happening. They're totally oblivious. He said, then I began to see submarines emerging from under the surface. I was surprised at how close they were to our borders. They were in our territorial waters, almost as if they were setting on our beaches. I saw missiles come out and hit eastern and western coastal cities of the United States. I cried out and said, oh God, when will this be? What will be the sign of its coming? He said, I heard an audible voice speak to me and say, when Russia opens her doors and lets the masses go, the free world will occupy themselves with transporting, housing, feeding, and caring from the masses, and will let down their weapons and cry peace and safety. Then sudden destruction will come. Then is when it will come. Now, what is it that caused the radio communications, the jagged lines he saw coming out of the communication towers, to just sprinkle down on the earth like dust? Well, I suspect it is an EMP blast. Michael, tell us more.
Thank you, Stan. If I was Russia, or for that matter, any terrorist organization or fanatic that wanted to bring the United States down in a single day, the way that I would do it, one of the things I would do anyway, is an EMP strike. In essence, what happens is you launch a nuclear device or devices high up into the atmosphere and explode it high up into the atmosphere. And what that causes is an electromagnetic pulse that radiates over a very large distance, a very large radius, frying electronics wherever it goes. It would basically send America back into the 1800s in a single moment. Fry all of our communications, our banking, the computer chips in our vehicles and our planes and everything else. And we'll get into that in a minute. When the Russians attack America, talked about how they're going to strike our military bases and everything else. But they'll also want to take out our communications. They'll want to take out our ability to communicate with one another. This has been seen by many of the prophets, by some of the prophetic voices. For example, let's talk about Maurice Sklar, who has been a guest on the Prophecy Club in the past.
And a good friend, a good brother.
Yes, absolutely. This prophecy, I want to read an excerpt from a prophecy that was given on March 3rd, 2014. Quote, "Then I saw 3 giant rocket missiles that took off into the air. 2 came out of the ocean waters, and 1 came from land and traveled a great distance. All of them blew up in the air, 1, 2, and 3, in the upper atmosphere within 5 minutes of each other. It was out near space. They were terrible nuclear bombs, but the last one was the biggest, and it created a huge mushroom cloud over the Midwest part of America. Then the ground shook and everything just went black. There wasn't any electrical light coming out of any homes. Then candles began to be lit and fires, and a little light was seen. There were other nuclear explosions, and many people perished throughout the nation. There was just twisted metal and charred debris in cities that once were tall and majestic, to send America back to the 1800s. But the picture at the top of the article basically shows what this would look like. A nuclear device exploded over the Midwest, the center part of the country, sending out this massive electromagnetic pulse all across the nation. And as Maurice Sklar saw in that vision, it would fry electronics. In other words, they would be destroyed. The computer chips would be fried, would not be able to come back on. And so that's why the lights aren't working, the computers, the electronics. That's why people had to light candles and start fires in order to warm themselves. Everything we take for granted, we're so incredibly dependent on technology today and electricity. Just imagine what a world, what a life, what our society without electricity would look like. There would be no heat for your home. If this happened during the winter when things were cold, all of a sudden you would start getting really cold really fast. In most homes, water would no longer be pumped, so you turn on your taps. Very quickly, there would be no water coming out, no water for you to drink, take baths, to cook with. Your computer obviously would not work. There would be no internet. Your cell phone would not work. The cell phone towers would be fried. Your phones would be fried. You'd not be able to call anyone. No one would be able to call you. There would be no television. There would be no radio. You would have, unless you are set up in some other way, you would have no way to find out what's happening. ATM machines would be shut down. You couldn't go to the bank. There would be no banking. The bank's computers would be fried. They wouldn't know that you have an account. They wouldn't know to give you money. You wouldn't be able to get anything out of the ATM. Your debit cards and credit cards would not work. This is one of the reasons why I recommend keeping some cash around at home, at least a little bit of cash for emergency situations. Most gas stations would quit functioning very quickly once their emergency power was gone. So you wouldn't be able to pump gas in your vehicle, even if your vehicle could start. If you've got a very old vehicle or a vehicle that would not be affected by this. Most people would not be able to do their jobs without electricity, and basically commerce would be brought to a standstill. Hospitals, without electricity, they would not be able to function normally, and you'd be very quickly start running out of medicine. Our transportation system, the shipments of medicine and food and all the supplies we rely on would break down. So, I hope people are starting to get a picture, an understanding of basically we would be thrown from 2015 back into the 1800s in an instant, in a single moment. But the thing is, most of us have absolutely no idea how to function in such an environment.
Well, I think like the old song says, I'm a country boy, I can survive. I can run a trot line, but the typical person, I can hunt. Okay. I learned as a kid how to shoot a BB gun. I can hit what I shoot at. The problem is, I could probably butcher things. I butchered a few things, deer hunting and stuff, but I am not equipped to live off the land. I don't know how to plant and to harvest. I don't know many of them. That typical person doesn't. In 1929, when the stock market crashed and we went into the Great Depression, 80% of the people back then lived on the farms, and even if there wasn't any money, they could still feed themselves. 80% of the people were Christians. But today, 80% of the people live in the cities. 80% of the people are not Christians. 80% of the people don't know how to take care of themselves. And consequently, many of the people have seen roving gangs just running around and stealing and killing and plundering and raping at will as a result of all of this chaos. But understand, be sure your sins will find you out and that everybody's going to be judged for everything. I think that this is the greatest soul winning that will ever hit this nation. Matter of fact, I think it's Jeremiah 51 says, "Yet a little while, and her harvest shall come." In other words, yeah, you're going to have to go through some trouble, but there will be a great harvest come in America. There will be a great revival. However, I do not plan to live through or even try to live through World War III here. Matter of fact, when the other signs start coming close, my wife and I, we already talked about it. Matter of fact, I probably ought to tell you that. One morning, I woke up out of this dream. I had a dream that I was looking down on an airplane, and I saw the people getting on the airplane, and a voice spoke to me and said, 2 men would get on a plane with a virus, and before the plane can land, everyone on board will be dead. This will be the beginning of the end of public air transportation. And I said, what? And the voice rebuked me and said, "You weren't listening," and went through it again. 2 men will get on a plane with a virus, and before the plane can land, everyone on board will be dead. This will be the beginning of the end of public air transportation. I prayed about that a lot, and the only answer I can come up with is this is essentially saying, if you want to get out of America before the trouble hits, and if you want to do so by air, this is your last opportunity. So we already talked about it around here. I mean, everybody I know, everybody listen to me on radio, I already told them. And as far as I'm concerned, when I see that, within 48 hours, me and my family are out of Dodge. Put everything up for sale, mail me a check. I'm done. I do not plan to have a hole in the wall with a bunch of food, a bunch of bullets and stuff and try to survive here in America. I'm going to leave. Okay, now next question, where do you go? Well, Leslie and I love Hawaii, but that's really not the best place to go because the Bible does say that every island will flee away. The best place, according to Jeremiah 51, verse 50, it says, "Let Jerusalem come into your mind." The best place will be Israel because Israel will emerge World War III the great victor. She'll get back all of her land from the Euphrates. We'll be right back after this message. The next speaker at the Prophecy Club from Seattle is famous for his news articles. Michael Snyder will speak on Prepare for the Economic Collapse and World War III. Topics are the next Great Depression, 20 signs Russia is preparing to fight and win a nuclear World War III. And the second talk is the regathering of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Every single son of Abraham and almost all Christians en masse will soon move to Israel. Quote, "I will cause them to know my hand and my might, and they shall know that my name is Jehovah." Israel will get back all of her land. Massive amounts of oil will be discovered. She will be the wealthiest of all nations on earth. Michael will speak Saturday evening at 7 and Sunday morning at 9:30 to noon, April 11 and 12 at Prophecy Club, 2540 K Avenue in Plano behind the Whataburger. Order the DVDs at prophecyclub.com. That's Saturday night at 7, Sunday morning 9:30, April 11 and 12. Prophecy Club, corner of Park and K behind the Whataburger in Plano. See you there! Jonathan Wright just made the brand new DVD called Prophecy in the Bible Codes. He has been researching Bible codes for 10 years, making code charts for 6 years. He's made over 500 code charts, and in this DVD he covers 60 of the best ones, such as the fall of America. Who are the two witnesses? Is Obama the Antichrist? Will there be a third world war? Will America be nuked and fall? Who is the Mahdi? Will there be a caliphate? What are the true origins of Islam? When does the rapture take place? What is the role of the Pope and the Vatican? Is the age of grace about to end? Who are the Illuminati? Will there be a third temple? It'll be 2 DVDs, roughly 5 hours of teaching, plus an extra CD, and the CD has a book on it that explains the codes, plus over 100 of the charts so you can look at them on your computer. Valued at $90, available through the Prophecy Club now for a gift of just $50. That's 2 DVDs and 1 CD for a gift of $50. Call 785-266-1112, 785-266-1112, or go to prophecyclub.com. That's Prophecy in the Bible Codes, 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. And now, back to the program. That every island will flee away. The best place, according to Jeremiah 51, verse 50, it says, let Jerusalem come into your mind. The best place will be Israel, because Israel will emerge World War III the great victor. She'll get back all of her land from the Euphrates to the Nile, including all of Saudi Arabia. She will briefly be lifted up to be the richest, wealthiest, strongest nation on earth. There will be a mass exodus, as he is going to talk about this coming Sunday morning, from the war-torn nations back to Israel. The desert will blossom again. She will be extremely wealthy, extremely blessed, and unfortunately then the Antichrist comes in to take over, and then the tribulation and all that sort of stuff. But really the best place to live, best place to go would be Israel, or specifically Jerusalem. But there's going to be trouble there, but they survive all of this, and they're the last place on earth where believers will be able to make it.
Yeah, absolutely, Stan. In my presentation, I'm going to talk about this because in the talk I'm going to give Saturday night, I'm going to talk about very troubling things. I'm going to talk about what we just talked about, this EMP attack. In fact, in 2001, after the 9/11 attacks, Congress got together and Congress said, okay, we've got to figure out what kind of attacks could come against this nation, what potential problems we could see in the future. So they established a commission. It's called the EMP Commission. And they studied this EMP threat for a number of years. And finally, in 2008, the EMP Commission, they testified to Congress, and they estimated that within 12 months of a nationwide blackout caused by an EMP event, up to 90% of the total U.S. population could possibly perish from starvation, disease, and societal breakdown. Now, these are not Christians. These are not conspiracy theorists on the internet. These are people that were commissioned by Congress to study this issue for a number of years. And their conclusion, their report, was that we could see 90% of the entire population of the United States die within the first 12 months of such an event. And actually, such an event can be caused by a nuclear device. But there's another way it could happen too. There's another potential danger, and that's a massive solar storm hitting this planet, frying our electronics. And if people don't think it should happen, they don't know their history. In fact, back in 1859, there was an event. It was called the Carrington event, and it fried electronics, caused all sort of problems. Now, at that time, we didn't have that much technology. We had the telegraph, and it caused massive problems with the telegraph system. But we didn't have all that we have today. But scientists tell us that if a similar event did hit us today, that we could experience all the things that I mentioned earlier in the program. Yeah, we can worry about Russia or Iran or ISIS or another terror group doing this with a nuclear device high up in our atmosphere, but the sun can do the exact same thing. In fact, scientists tell us that there was a very close call in 2012 and a very close call in 2013. There were these massive solar storms which unleashed a tremendous amount of energy toward the Earth. Now, it barely missed us. You know, it went right by us. But if we would have been directly hit, it would have been a completely nightmare. In fact, Lloyd's of London says that it would have taken a chunk out of the global economy in excess of $2 trillion. So these things do happen, and it can literally happen at any time for the sun. So this is a very real threat. So what's being done about it? Well, Barack Obama has been told about this. Congress has been urging him to take action, but essentially Barack Obama's approach has been to basically sit back, do nothing, and hope that it never happens, because we do have the technology to harden our power grid and our critical infrastructure, to take certain measures which would mitigate the damage from a massive solar storm or an EMP caused by a nuclear device. But Barack Obama has chosen to basically do nothing.
I just pulled up something here that I think fits real powerful with what you're saying. We had a speaker in called Doug Metzger, and Doug had several visions about the things that are coming. He saw a vision of a giant redwood tree, which had fallen across the road with the words "America" fallen on it. He said most people died on this side of the tree. They could never get over the fact that America had fallen. He was shown an invisible door on the side of the tree in the shape of a cross, in which people who understood the cross, who knew how to die to self and be transformed in the likeness of Christ, were able to go through it. Just as through the door, they will be able to go through the midst of America fallen. Because they know the cross, they will become giants on the other side with crowns. In other words, brothers and sisters, this trouble coming is not necessarily means you need to be biting your fingernails. What we all need to do is repent, get close to Jesus, and then whatever happens, it's going to be okay. On the other hand, if you have a wonderful hole in the ground with plenty of provisions and you don't have Jesus, you're not prepared. If you don't have any preparations and you have Jesus and holiness, you're in the will of God, then you're going to be okay. Most important thing is, if you know people that are not saved, now's the time to talk to them. Because the angel that spoke to Dimitri said, if those people wait till the last minute, God is not going to give them protection. Now, he'll always hear their prayer for repentance and salvation, but he will not give them supernatural protection unless they stop sinning now. They have to prepare themselves now so that he will protect them in the day of trouble.
Yeah, Stan, I'm so glad you brought this up, because the reason we're talking about all this information is not so people can think, wow, that's interesting, that I'm entertained by this information. Everything that can be shaken will be shaken. And when this shaking occurs, people are going to be looking for answers. Right now, people's hearts are hard, especially in the United States. There's such a hardness to the gospel. People don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear about God. They don't want to hear about salvation through Jesus Christ. But when these things begin to take place, and it's the mercy of God that they're going to take place over time, because it's not just going to be judgment all at once and everything's going to be destroyed, but people are going to start to see these things take to place, and they're going to think, wow, I heard this from the prophecy, or my relatives told me about this, my family told me about this. And so people are all of a sudden going to become receptive, and we are going to see the greatest harvest of souls this world has ever seen. And so that's why I'm encouraging people not just to come to my talk, not just to listen to what I have to say and get the DVD for themselves, but what I plan to deliver on Saturday night is the most comprehensive warning that I've ever come across, that I've ever heard, that you've ever heard, about what's coming between right now and the fall of America. So many of us, we want to warn our family, our friends about what's coming, and we would say, oh, watch this pile of DVDs, read this pile of books, look at all these articles. Well, what I'm hoping to do in one DVD is something you can give to a family member and say, this is what's coming to America. This is what the prophets are saying. This is what's right on the verge of happening. They can receive the warning, and even if they don't respond at that instant, they're going to remember it. They're going to have it up on their shelf. So as these things begin to take place, they're going to say, wow, God really did warn us in advance. Their hearts are going to be stirred, and people are going to get saved as a result of these DVDs. My hope is that people in the listening audience, that your family members will get saved as a result of this warning message. And so many of the things that the Prophecy Club has been warning about for 20 years, that I've been writing about since 2009, we're right at the door of them happening. And if we can get these DVDs and this information out to people and show, yeah, we knew that this was going to happen in advance because God still speaks, going to open the eyes of a whole lot of people. And we're going to see a lot of people get saved. And that's the goal.
Let me read something from Dimitri Duduman, guys. This is really, really important. To just speak to what we were talking about. April 22, 1995. It's called Israel in America. And I'm just going to read a paragraph of it. But Dimitri had landed, and he was standing on the California coastline. He says he looked up and saw that the entire sky was filled with planes, darkened the sun. The angel beside him said, these planes are loaded with atom bombs, and no one and nothing will be able to stop them. Then skip down about 4 or 5 verses, and it says, I have revealed this to you ahead of time, for the destruction which is coming over them I did not allow to come unannounced. The punishment is even at the door. The angel then said, get ready, sanctify yourself, you and yours, that you and yours may not take part in the trials that are ahead. I have shown you what is to come in a short while. All that you have seen is at the door, because of the sin and wickedness has reached the throne of God's mercy. Now, let's go back to what it said there. Get ready. Sanctify yourself and you and yours, that you and yours may not take part in the trials that are ahead. In other words, there's not going to be a pre-trib, mid-trib, or pre-wrath rapture. Nobody is going anywhere. You can dig all the holes in the walls you want to, stack it with all the guns and groceries you want to, but if you don't have yourself clean now, then you will go through the trials ahead. And in another place, it says, and you will not deny me, meaning if you don't stop sinning now, if your friends, neighbors, relatives, the people you work with, if you don't talk to them now, get them to stop sinning now, they will go through the trials and they will deny Jesus and lose their salvation. Let me encourage you again to come and hear Michael as he's going to be speaking this Saturday evening at the Prophecy Club on the corner of Park and K in Plano. This Saturday evening at 7, this Sunday morning at 9:30. 2540 K Avenue, Plano, on the corner of Park and K in Plano, right behind the Whataburger. Come on out and hear him. First talk, Saturday evening, prepare for the economic collapse in World War III. Second talk, Sunday morning, regathering of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Yes, you can get both DVDs for a gift valued at $60, but you can get both of them for $50. But there's an even better deal. If you call the Prophecy Club, 785-266-1112, that's 785-266-1112. Grab your cell phone. I'll say it again. You'll get Standing for the Lord by Christine Weick, the three DVDs, Prophecies in the Bible Codes with Jonathan Matthew Wright, and Prepare for the Economic Collapse and the Regathering of the 10 Lost Tribes of Israel, 5 DVDs, valued at $140. You can get them all for a gift of just $90. Helps us, and it helps you, and it might save someone's soul. 785-266-1112. prophecyclub.com, 785-266-1112. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers, and thank you for your monthly support. God bless. Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. Jonathan Wright just made the brand new DVD called Prophecy in the Bible Codes. He has been researching Bible codes for 10 years, making code charts for 6 years. He's made over 500 code charts, and in this DVD he covers 60 of the best ones, such as the fall of America. Who are the two witnesses? Is Obama the Antichrist? Will there be a third world war? Will America be nuked and fall? Who is the Mahdi? Will there be a caliphate? What are the true origins of Islam? When does the rapture take place? What is the role of the Pope and the Vatican? Is the age of grace about to end? Who are the Illuminati? Will there be a third temple? It'll be 2 DVDs, roughly 5 hours of teaching, plus an extra CD, and the CD has a book on it that explains the codes, plus over 100 of the charts so you can look at them on your computer. Valued at $90, available through the Prophecy Club now for a gift of just $50. That's 2 DVDs and 1 CD for a gift of $50. Call 785-266-1112, 785-266-1112, or go to prophecyclub.com. That's Prophecy in the Bible Codes, 785-266-1112, or prophecyclub.com. The next speaker at the Prophecy Club from Seattle is famous for his news articles. Michael Snyder will speak on Prepare for the Economic Collapse and World War III. Topics are the next Great Depression, 20 signs Russia is preparing to fight and win a nuclear World War III. And the second talk is the regathering of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Every single son of Abraham and almost all Christians en masse will soon move to Israel. Quote, I will cause them to know my hand and my might, and they shall know that my name is Jehovah. Israel will get back all of her land. Massive amounts of oil will be discovered. She will be the wealthiest of all nations on earth. Michael will speak Saturday evening at 7 and Sunday morning at 9:30 to noon, April 11 and 12 at Prophecy Club, 2540 K Avenue in Plano behind the Whataburger. Order the DVDs at prophecyclub.com. That's Saturday night at 7, Sunday morning 9:30, April 11 and 12. Prophecy Club, corner of Park and K behind the Whataburger in Plano. See you there!